Long ago in the great kingdom of Asunle, where the river sparkled like diamonds and the forest stretched beyond the eyes could see, there lived a young girl named Adunni. She was not just any girl. She was the daughter of the late King Obalolu, the rightful heir to the throne, but she did not know this. Asunle was once a peaceful land, but ever since King Obalolu had died, under mysterious circumstances, the kingdom had fallen into the hands of his brother, Obalolu, who ruled with greed and an iron fist. The people whispered of the lost princess, the child who had vanished on the night of the king's death. Some believed she had perished, while others hoped she would one day return to claim her throne. Adunni, raised by an old healer woman named Mama Sade, had no knowledge of her royal blood. She spent her days gathering herbs, helping the sick, and listening to the stories the elders told. She had always felt different, as if something was missing, but Mama Sade never spoke much about her past. One fateful evening, a wounded stranger staggered into their small hut. His name was Dimeji, a young warrior loyal to the old king. His eyes widened when he saw Adunni. "It is you," he whispered before collapsing. Confused, Adunni and Mama Sade nursed him back to health. When he awoke, Dimeji told Adunni the truth about her identity. "You are the true queen of Asunle," he said. "The people suffer under Obalolu's rule. You must reclaim your throne." Adunni's heart pounded. She was just a simple girl. How could she be a queen? Mama Sade sighed. "I had hoped to keep you safe from this truth, but the time has come. You must decide, my child. Will you fight for your people or will you run?" That night, Adunni could not sleep. Visions of a golden crown, her father's voice, and the suffering people filled her mind. The next morning, she made her choice. "I will fight." With Dimeji by her side, she set off on a journey to gather allies, hidden warriors, elders who still believed in her father's rule, and villagers who longed for justice. They whispered her name in secret, hope flickering in their eyes. But Obalolu was not blind. He had spies everywhere. When he learned that the lost princess had returned, he sent his most feared warriors after her. One night, while resting in a dense forest, Adunni and her small army were ambushed. Arrows rained down, swords clashed, and chaos erupted. Adunni fought bravely, her heart pounding as she faced the warriors who served the man who stole her kingdom. Then the unthinkable happened. Mama Sade, who had followed them in secret, stepped in front of an arrow meant for Adunni. As she fell, she whispered, "You were born for this. Never give up." Tears blurred Adunni's vision, but she had no time to grieve. She fought harder, leading her people to victory that night. But the battle was not over. With fire in her heart, she marched to the palace where Obalolu waited with his full army. The final battle was fierce, the sound of clashing swords echoing through the land. And then Adunni faced Obalolu himself. "You should have died the night your father did," he sneered. "You made a mistake letting me live," she said, her voice steady. With the final strike, she ended his reign. The people of Asunle cheered as the golden crown was placed upon her head. The lost princess had returned. But as she sat on the throne, she knew this was just the beginning. A queen's true battle was not with swords, but with wisdom and justice, and Adunni was ready. As the kingdom of Asunle celebrated the return of its rightful queen, Adunni sat in the great hall surrounded by her most trusted allies. The scars of Obalolu's rule still lingered. Farmlands had been burned, the treasury had been emptied, and many of her people still lived in fear. Reclaiming the throne had been a battle, but rebuilding the kingdom would be an even greater challenge. One evening, as Adunni walked through the palace corridors, a guard approached her. "My queen," he said, bowing, "a visitor has arrived. He claims to have urgent news about your father's death." Adunni's breath caught. For years, she had accepted that her father had been betrayed by Obalolu. But could there be more to the story? The guard led her to the palace courtyard, where an old man with a long white beard stood waiting. His eyes, though aged, held a sharpness that unsettled her. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice hoarse, "I am Juba, an old friend of your father. I know the truth of what happened the night he died." Adunni studied him carefully. "Speak," she commanded. Juba sighed deeply. "Your father was not just poisoned by Obalolu. There was another, a traitor within the palace. Someone close to him." A chill ran down Adunni's spine. "Who?" Juba hesitated, then said, "A palace elder named Aremu. He helped Obalolu gain power in exchange for riches and protection. But when Obalolu fell, Aremu disappeared. He is still alive, and I believe he is plotting against you now. Adunni clenched her fists. She had thought her enemies were vanquished, but darkness still lurked in the shadows of her kingdom. Where is he? She asked. Juba looked around cautiously before whispering, hiding in the eastern hills, gathering men who still remain loyal to Obalolu. Adunni knew what she had to do. She summoned Dimeji and her warriors. We ride at dawn, she declared. This betrayal will not go unanswered. The journey to the eastern hills was long and treacherous. As they rode, whispers of danger spread among the soldiers. The hills were said to be cursed, haunted by spirits of warriors long gone. But Adunni was not afraid. When they arrived, they found Aremu's hideout, a fortress hidden within the cliffs. Adunni, Dimeji, and a small group of warriors crept forward under the cover of night. The wind howled through the valley, and the stars shone like watchful eyes. Suddenly a horn sounded. They had been seen. Aremu's men emerged from the shadows, weapons gleaming in the moonlight. You should have stayed in your palace, girl. Aremu sneered as he stepped forward. His face was older, his body frailer, but his eyes were still filled with cunning. You betrayed my father, Adunni said, gripping her sword tightly. And now you threaten my kingdom. Aremu laughed. I did what I had to do to survive. The throne is not won by birthright but by power, and you, child, are too young to understand that. Adunni lifted her chin. Power without honor is nothing. The battle began. Swords clashed, arrows flew, and the sound of war filled the night. Adunni fought fiercely, her movements quick and precise. She had trained for this moment, and she would not fail. At last she stood before Aremu, their swords locked in a final struggle. He was skilled, but years of treachery had weakened his soul. With one swift motion, Adunni disarmed him. You are beaten, she said. Surrender. Aremu looked into her eyes and saw something he had never expected. Mercy. He fell to his knees. Your father would have been proud, he muttered. Adunni took a deep breath. You will answer for your crimes, she said, but your time of ruling from the shadows is over. With Aremu captured, the last remnants of Obalolu's dark reign crumbled. As Adunni rode back to the palace, the first rays of dawn painted the sky in gold and crimson. The kingdom of Asunle was safe once more. But Adunni knew her journey as queen had only just begun, and she was ready. Adunni ruled with wisdom, fairness, and kindness, just as her father once did. She spent her days listening to the people's concerns, ensuring justice was served, and rebuilding the kingdom from the damage Obalolu had caused. The people loved her, and Asunle once again became a prosperous land filled with joy and peace. But while the kingdom flourished, Adunni's heart felt incomplete. She had given herself entirely to her people, yet something was missing. She longed for companionship, for a love that would not only strengthen her rule, but also bring her personal happiness. One day, as she traveled through the kingdom to meet the farmers in the eastern village, she came across a young man named Ayomide. He was a gifted architect, known for designing strong and beautiful homes for those in need. He was humble, hardworking, and carried a deep love for Asunle. Their first meeting was unexpected. Ayomide was helping to repair a bridge that had been damaged in a recent storm. As Adunni observed his dedication to the people, something about him intrigued her. She watched as he worked tirelessly, not for gold or status, but simply to serve others. Why do you work so hard? She asked him as she approached. Ayomide wiped his brow and smiled. A kingdom is only as strong as its people. If they are safe and happy, then we all thrive. His words stayed with her. Over time, Adunni and Ayomide grew close. He never treated her as just a queen, but as a person with dreams and fears. She admired his strength and kindness, and he, in turn, saw in her a heart full of love and determination. One evening, under the golden glow of the setting sun, Ayomide knelt before Adunni. My queen, I have served this land with my hands, but I wish to serve you with my heart. Will you allow me to stand by your side, not just as a loyal subject, but as your partner in life? Adunni's heart swelled with happiness. She had found not only love, but also a man who shared her vision for a better kingdom. Their wedding was the grandest the kingdom had ever seen. The people danced, feasted, and celebrated for days. Together, Adunni and Ayomide ruled not with power alone, but with love, respect, and a deep understanding of their people. And so, The kingdom of Asunle thrived not just because of a wise queen, but because of a love that strengthened its very foundation. True leadership is not only about ruling, it is about love, unity, and the willingness to build a future for generations to come.